The silent detection. The stars burned cold and distant, spread across the black ocean of space. For the alien reconnaissance fleet, it was supposed to be a routine patrol. Their commanders had told them again and again, humans are long gone. Their war machines are myths. Nothing remains but stories. Yet as Captain Zorak leaned forward in his command chair, his mandibles clicked with unease. His ship's sensors had detected something unusual, an object drifting in the void, massive, silent, and cloaked in a strange shadow. "Report," Zorak demanded, his voice sharp. A younger officer bent over the console, his 4 fingers shaking, as he read the results. "Captain, it's no asteroid. It has shape, symmetry, metallic hull." The bridge grew quiet. The crew exchanged nervous glances. "Magnify," Zorak ordered. The view screen brightened, pixels sharpening, revealing a dark shape against the stars. Long, sleek, armored plating, edges jagged like ancient blades. At first, the younger crew thought it was just another derelict ship. But then the image cleared fully. One word filled every mind on that bridge, even though no one dared to say it aloud. Human. The officer's voice cracked as he whispered, "Captain, it's a warship." Gasps rippled through the command deck. Stories told to alien children, stories of humanity's wars, their unmatched ships, their merciless victories, came rushing back into memory. The tales were not supposed to be true anymore. Humanity had disappeared, vanished from galactic politics centuries ago. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others said they had retreated beyond known space. But if this vessel was real, impossible, Zorak hissed, though his eyes betrayed fear. "The humans are extinct." Another officer turned from her console, her crest quivering. "Sir, the hull design, the markings, it matches the archives. This is a Terran dreadnought. It should not exist." The room fell into silence. For a moment, it seemed the warship was nothing but a ghost. Dark, unmoving, silent. Perhaps it was abandoned. Nothing more than an empty shell. Perhaps there was nothing to fear. But then, the sensors flickered. "Captain," the officer stammered. "There is energy. Faint but rising. The ship's core is powering up." The crew froze. The silence of space suddenly felt alive, heavy, crushing their confidence. "Run a full scan," Zorak barked, but his voice shook. Numbers filled the screen, energy spikes, shield systems flickering online, weapon ports opening one by one like eyes waking from a long sleep. "It's alive," the young officer whispered. The crew panicked. Some shouted to retreat, others argued they should fire immediately and destroy it before it could fully awaken. Zorak slammed his clawed fist against the armrest. "Enough! We are the Empire's soldiers. We do not flee before ghosts." But even as he spoke, he felt dread curling inside him. His people had ruled the galaxy for centuries, crushing weaker races, burning planets, enslaving civilizations. Yet one name had always been spoken with caution, even fear: humanity. Legends claimed that a single human warship had once destroyed entire fleets. That humans never surrendered, never begged, never ran. And now one such ship floated before them, its silence more terrifying than any roar. The warship's hull lights began to glow, faint at first, then brighter, as if the ship itself was taking a breath after a long slumber. "Contact the other patrol ships," Zorak ordered quickly. "Form a perimeter around the vessel. No movement, no approach. We must report this immediately to High Command." The orders were sent, but whispers spread across the bridge. What if it was already too late? The younger officer leaned closer to his screen, eyes widening. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Captain, there's movement." The entire crew turned to the main view screen. At the very front of the warship, behind the wide observation glass of the command deck, a silhouette appeared. It was tall, broad-shouldered, unmistakably human. The figure stood silently, hands clasped, behind its back staring out at the alien fleet with calm, unblinking eyes. No one spoke. No one dared breathe. For centuries, the aliens had laughed at human stories. They had mocked the idea of human strength, of human ships, of human war. They had convinced themselves that humanity was gone forever. But here, in the endless night of space, a ghost had awakened, and it was looking directly at them. The silence of the void felt louder than any explosion. On the alien bridge, every heart pounded with the same dreadful realization. They had spotted a human warship, and now it was already too late. Fear across the fleet. The silence of the human warship still haunted every mind in the alien patrol fleet. No one spoke freely now. Every voice was low, shaky, careful, as though even sound might awaken the ancient beast in front of them. Captain Zorak's orders had been carried out. Dozens of alien ships moved into position, forming a wide ring around the warship. They aimed their weapons, locked their shields, and waited. Yet none of them felt safe. Messages flooded in across the comms. Other captains demanded answers. "Is this a trick?" one shouted. "Some old wreck planted to scare us?" "Then why is it powering up?" another replied with trembling anger. They argued. They cursed. But beneath their words was the same choking fear. The legends were not lies. The ship was real. Zorak stood tall in the middle of his bridge, trying to hide the chill crawling through his spine. He had heard the stories as a child, stories of how humans fought against impossible odds. Even when surrounded, even when outnumbered, they never surrendered. Entire fleets had been burned by a handful of human ships. Whole worlds had fallen in a single campaign. His father once told him, "Never wake a sleeping human warship. If you see one, you run." But retreat was no longer an option. Too many eyes were watching. Too many captains waited for his command. "Transmit this to High Command," Zorak ordered. "Tell them, we have found a Terran dreadnought." The crew hesitated before sending the message. Even saying the words out loud felt dangerous, like calling down a curse. Across the fleet, panic grew. Admiral Kelros, the supreme commander of this sector, appeared on the hollow screen. His face was pale, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Explain." "Captain," the admiral demanded, "you claim you have found a human ship?" "Impossible. They are myths. They are gone." Zorak swallowed hard. "Admiral, the scans are true. The power signatures match. The hull markings are Terran. And..." He paused, his throat tightening. "We saw a human inside." The admiral's face darkened. Around him, his officers exchanged fearful glances. "Then it is worse than I feared," Kelros whispered. "If humans are alive, if their ships are awakening..." He cut himself off. His voice hardened. "Surround it. Do not allow it to escape. Reinforcements are on the way." But even as his words echoed, the alien officers shifted uneasily. None of them wanted reinforcements. None wanted to be anywhere near this warship when it truly woke. On the human vessel, shadows flickered behind the observation glass. More silhouettes moved. The crew was stirring, awakening from cryosleep after centuries. The aliens could only watch in horror as faint blue light spread along the warship's hull like veins filling with blood. "Captain," the young officer on Zorak's bridge whispered, "the warship is scanning us." Alarms rang. Consoles flashed red. Every alien ship felt the invisible weight of the warship's gaze as if it was choosing which to kill first. "Raise shields! Prepare all weapons!" Zorak shouted, his voice breaking. But deep inside, he knew it would not matter. Their weapons were sharp against weaker races, against broken rebels and fragile colonies. But against humans, against this, whispers spread like poison. Some crew begged to flee. Others prayed silently to forgotten gods. Then it happened. On the command deck of the warship, the human figure stepped closer to the glass. The alien fleet froze. Every screen, every camera zoomed in, showing the human standing tall, his eyes cold, his face calm. And then, with terrifying slowness, the human raised his hand. The gesture was not friendly, not peaceful. It was a warning. Across the alien fleet, panic exploded. Some captains screamed into their comms, ordering retreat. Others prepared to fire, hoping to destroy the ship before it fully awakened. Zorak slammed his claw against the console. "No, hold position. Do not fire without my command." But it was too late. One alien destroyer, trembling in fear, launched a missile. The warhead streaked through the void, leaving a trail of fire. It struck the warship's hull and vanished. No explosion, no damage. Just a faint ripple across an invisible shield. The human ship's lights flared brighter, its core humming like a giant heart. Zorak's blood ran cold. He let them fire. He wanted us to see. The warship was awake now. On its bridge, the human lowered his hand and whispered something only his crew could hear. But somehow the aliens felt the meaning anyway. It was a promise. It was a threat. The alien fleets realized the truth with horror. Escape was no longer possible. The dreadnought had chosen its prey. The awakening. The alien fleet drifted in terrified silence. The missile that had struck the warship had done nothing, not even a scratch. Instead, the human's vessel now pulsed with power, as if the attack had been an alarm clock shaking it, awake. Captain Zorak gripped the armrests of his chair so tightly that his claws carved marks into the metal. His crew looked at him with wide eyes, waiting for orders, but his mind was frozen. What command could he possibly give against that? On the warship, deep inside the silent halls, something stirred. Dim corridors lit up one by one, glowing with a faint blue light. Frost melted from metal walls. Doors hissed open. Pods cracked and released streams of white mist. Inside those pods, humans began to breathe again. The ship's AI, its voice low and ancient, echoed through the corridors. Cryocycle complete. Crew revival in progress. Systems restoring. The first to open his eyes was the captain. His breath shuddered as cold air left his lungs. Slowly, he stepped out of his pod, his boots clanging against the steel floor. His hair was streaked with gray, but his eyes burned sharp and alive. He placed a hand on the wall, and the ship itself seemed to respond, lights flickering brighter, engines humming deeper. He whispered, voice rough from centuries of sleep. "Status." "Report." The AI's tone was calm, steady, almost human itself. "Ship integrity at 94%. Weapons dormant but functional. Shields fully restored. Crew awakening sequence underway. Estimated full strength in 6 minutes." The captain's lips curved into a thin smile. He glanced toward the massive viewport at the front of the deck, where he could see the alien fleet waiting nervously, surrounding them like vultures. "And the enemy?" he asked. 112 vessels detected. Weak armaments. No threat." The human chuckled softly, his voice filled with a dangerous calm. "Then we have woken in good time." On the alien ships, alarms continued to scream. The warships. "Power levels are rising exponentially," shouted Zorak's officer. "Shields full strength, weapons online, core active." The bridge filled with frightened whispers. Some officers begged to flee, others demanded to fire again. But Zorak knew the truth. If they fired, it would be useless. If they fled, they would be hunted. Then, suddenly, a voice cut across every channel. It was deep, human, unshaken. "This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran dreadnought Invictus. Identify yourselves." The sound of his voice sent shivers across every alien ship. It was not just the words. It was the weight behind them, the authority of someone who had commanded wars long before their empire was even born. Zorak's comm officer, his hands trembling, opened a channel. "This is the fleet of the Zalorian Empire," he stammered. "We demand you surrender at once." The human captain laughed, not cruelly, but with a confidence that stung. "You demand?" His voice grew harder. "Do you even understand where you are standing? This space does not belong to your empire. It belongs to Earth." The aliens erupted in protest, shouting through comms, but the captain continued unfazed. "You Think us dead. You think us forgotten. Yet here I stand and here my ship awakens. Remember your history, Zalorians. Remember what happens when you face humanity in war. His words were fire, searing across the alien ranks. Zorak felt his throat, dry, his hands shaking. His crew looked at him with despair. On the Invictus, the captain raised his hand to the main console. "Weapons," he ordered. The ship obeyed. Massive cannons extended from the hull with a deep, echoing rumble. Missile bays unfolded. Plasma lances powered up, glowing brighter than stars. The hum of energy filled the void, shaking every sensor. Across the alien fleet, targeting systems locked, the AI confirmed. On the alien ships, panic broke loose. Captains screamed over comms, begging for orders, begging for mercy. Some tried to retreat, their thrusters flaring as they pulled away. Others charged weapons in desperation. Zorak's eyes widened as his screens lit up red. Every single ship in his fleet had been locked. The warship's targeting grid tracked them flawlessly. Not a single vessel was spared. "By the stars," Zorak whispered, voice hollow. "He has us all." On the bridge of the Invictus, Captain Rourke stared coldly at the glowing screen, showing the entire alien armada trapped like insects in a jar. He leaned forward, his voice steady, deadly. "You fired on us. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was thinking you had a choice." He gave the order with calm finality. Fire. The void erupted in light. The impossible escape. The black ocean of space exploded into light. From the Terran dreadnought Invictus, streams of plasma lanced outward, glowing like pieces of a newborn sun. Missiles launched in silence, their trails curving with surgical precision, each one locked to its prey. Alien ships that had once mocked humanity now screamed across the comms as their hulls burned. A Zalorian cruiser was the first to fall. A single plasma beam sliced through its shield as if it were paper, tearing the ship into two fiery halves. The wreckage spun wildly before vanishing in a final explosion. "Impossible," Zorak's officer shouted. "Our shields are useless." Another scream echoed through the comms. A destroyer tried to flee, thrusters blazing at full strength. The dreadnought's targeting system shifted instantly. One missile streaked forward, detonating against its engines. The destroyer spun helplessly, caught in the warship's grip, before another volley tore it apart. On the Invictus, Captain Elias Rourke stood calmly, his eyes scanning the battlefield. He did not cheer. He did not boast. For him, this was not war. It was routine. "Report," he said. The AI answered in its calm, cold voice. 12 vessels destroyed, 35 crippled, remaining forces attempting retreat. None will succeed. "Then we," Captain nodded once. "Continue." The warship obeyed. Alien fleets scattered like frightened birds, but no matter which way they fled, the Invictus was faster, smarter, deadlier. Its missiles curved around obstacles, weaving through space like hunters chasing prey. Its beams locked onto targets across impossible distances, never missing, never faltering. On Zorak's bridge, chaos reigned. Officers screamed over each other, reports of ships dying every second. His hands shook, his mandibles clacked uncontrollably. "Order them to regroup," he shouted. "If we concentrate our fire—" But his words were drowned out by another explosion. One of their flagships vanished in a storm of fire, taking thousands of soldiers with it. The fleet's morale shattered instantly. "Captain," a young officer cried, "we cannot escape. Every path is blocked." Zorak looked at the tactical screen. It was true. The dreadnought seemed to anticipate every movement, cutting off retreat routes before they even formed. Whole squadrons tried to hide behind asteroids, only for the massive cannons to blast the rocks apart, exposing them to destruction. "It's like he's reading our minds," the officer whispered. Zorak clenched his fists. "No, not reading. Remember the legends. Humans study their enemies. They learn." Meanwhile, the alien comms filled with desperation. Captains begged High Command for reinforcements, for rescue, for mercy, but there was no answer. No one dared come near the battlefield. The dreadnought kept advancing. With each strike, with each flash of fire, the aliens realized the truth they had tried so hard to bury. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had never been broken. Humanity had simply been waiting. On the Invictus, Rourke spoke again. His voice carried across open channels, broadcasted to every alien still alive. You dared to fire on us. You dared to surround us. Now you see the cost. His words were calm, steady, almost gentle, but they hit harder than any weapon. Across the alien fleet, soldiers wept. Captains fell silent. Officers froze. Your empire believes you rule the four stars, Rourke continued. But these stars are ours. This galaxy remembers us whether you like it or not. And now, so will you. As if to underline his words, the dreadnought unleashed another devastating volley. 5 cruisers exploded at once, lighting the void like a dying sun. Zorak felt his knees weaken. He turned to his crew, his voice hollow. We cannot win. We cannot escape. His officers stared at him, pale with fear. Then what do we do, Captain? Zorak swallowed hard. There was only one choice left. We surrender. The word tasted like poison on his tongue, but he forced it out. Before he could issue the order, however, the AI on the Invictus whispered into Rourke's ear. Intercepted transmission detected. Coordinates of alien homeworld revealed in enemy. Signals. Rourke's eyes narrowed. So, their heart beats close. He turned toward the viewport, watching the alien fleet crumble before him. His voice dropped to a whisper, meant for his crew alone. Let the Empire tremble. Today we teach them fear again. He raised his hand. Prepare the jump. Plot course for their capital. The crew obeyed instantly. The engines flared with impossible energy. On the alien ships, horror spread like wildfire. They realized, too, late what the human dreadnought had discovered. The Invictus was not content with victory here. It was coming for their very world, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it. Humanity's return. The void was littered with the broken remains of the Zolorian fleet. Ships burned silently, their debris drifting like ashes scattered in space. The once proud armada had been reduced to twisted wreckage in less than an hour, and, yet for Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran dreadnought Invictus, the battle was already behind him. His eyes were fixed on something far more important. Coordinates locked, the AI reported, its calm voice cutting through the stillness. Destination, Zolorian Prime. Estimated time to arrival, 4 minutes. The alien homeworld, the very heart of the Empire. On the shattered remains of the enemy fleet, survivors sent desperate transmissions to their leaders. The human ship is moving. It has our coordinates. It's heading for the capital. Panic spread faster than fire. Across the Empire, commanders shouted orders, fleets scrambled, politicians screamed in fear. But all knew the truth. No ship could reach the homeworld in time. The dreadnought was already on its way. Inside the Invictus, the crew, men and women awakened from centuries of sleep, took their stations. Their movements were steady, disciplined, as though they had never left. For them, war was not new. It was in their blood. Rourke stood at the center of the command deck, his gaze locked on the stars stretching ahead. He spoke quietly, but every word carried weight. For centuries we have slept, forgotten, abandoned, but today, humanity rises again. The crew responded in unison, their voices sharp, their spirits unbroken. For Earth, the dreadnought surged forward, its engines tearing through space-time itself. In an instant, the wreckage of the alien fleet vanished behind them. Ahead lay the Empire's jewel, Zolorian Prime. The planet glowed like a gem in the darkness, covered in oceans and sprawling cities that stretched across continents. Billions of citizens lived there, proud and arrogant, believing their empire eternal. But that illusion ended the moment the sky tore open. The Invictus emerged from hyperspace above the planet's orbit. Its colossal frame blocked the stars, a shadow stretching across the world below. Sirens wailed in the capital. Civilians poured into the streets, pointing at the sky with trembling hands. Soldiers scrambled to their stations, but even their bravest commanders felt their courage drain away. High Command watched in stunned silence from their grand chamber. Dozens of alien leaders sat frozen, their eyes fixed on the colossal ship, hanging above their home. One of them whispered, voice cracking, "It's real. The humans. They have returned." On the Dreadnought's bridge, Rourke gave his order. "Open channels. All of them. Let every living soul on that planet hear me." The AI obeyed. In an instant, his voice thundered across the Empire. Civilians, soldiers, leaders, every ear heard the words of the human captain. "This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran Dreadnought Invictus. Your fleets are destroyed. Your defenses are nothing. Your empire is broken." The silence that followed was suffocating. Not a single alien dared to speak. Rourke's voice grew colder. "For centuries, you believed humanity was gone. You enslaved worlds. You crowned yourselves rulers of the galaxy. But you forgot one thing. Humans do not vanish. We endure. We wait. And when the time comes..." He paused, his gaze hard as steel. "We return." Gasps echoed through the alien council chambers. Citizens fell to their knees in the streets. Soldiers lowered their weapons, knowing they were useless. Then the warship demonstrated its power. Without warning, one of its plasma lances fired. A beam of light cut across the planet's upper atmosphere, slicing a defense station into dust. The explosion painted the sky red, a warning shot for all to see. Rourke's voice followed, sharp as a blade. "This is your choice. Submit, or be erased." On Zalorian Prime, leaders argued in terror. Some demanded surrender at once. Others shouted to fight to the last soldier. But even as they argued, their screens showed the truth. One ship had destroyed everything they had. There was no choice. Admiral Kelros, his face pale and broken, finally bowed his head. We surrender." The words spread like a shockwave. Across the Empire, fleets stopped fighting. Soldiers abandoned their weapons. Citizens wept in disbelief. The Empire had fallen, not to an army, not to an invasion, but to a single human ship. On the Invictus, Rourke listened to the surrender with quiet satisfaction, but there was no smile on his face. His eyes burned with something deeper, something far more dangerous than victory. "This is only the beginning," he murmured. The AI's voice hummed softly. "Captain, what are your orders now?" Rourke looked out at the trembling world below, then at the stars beyond. His voice was calm, steady, absolute. "Signal Earth. Tell them. Humanity is awake." The dreadnought turned slowly, engines glowing brighter than suns, ready to vanish into hyperspace once more. On Zalorian Prime, billions watched in dread, knowing the truth. If one ship could break their empire, what would happen when the rest of humanity returned?